my opinion differs from yours. I think people should continue to spend time on TikTok, even if it goes away. It won't go away. 100% will not go away. I am so sure of it. And I'm saying it all the time in public. So there's 100%. There's like so many records of me saying this. So only time will tell if I'm right or wrong. But I'm that's my opinion on this.
This episode of Gratitude Geek is brought to you by the Super Patch Company. Want more sleep, less stress, less pain? There's a patch for that. Learn more at grateful.superpatch.com. Welcome to Gratitude Geek, the relationship marketing podcast for micropreneurs building genuine, lasting relationships with clients, colleagues, and community. I'm your host, Nesbitt-Rodarte. If you love eavesdropping on conversations between grateful entrepreneurs who are making this world a better place, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Today, I'm joined by award-winning advertising executive Robert Brill. Robert has worked in advertising for 20 years and is the CEO of Brill Media, a digital advertising agency for scalable business growth. The company has been honored 10 times across Inc. 5000 and Financial Times 500. Welcome, Robert.
Thanks, Candace.
Tell us your story. How did you get to where you are today?
I'm like a bulldog. I'm like a dog with a bone. Maybe not bulldogs specifically, because bulldogs are actually quite lovely dogs. I don't want to perpetuate the stereotype. I'm a dog with a bone. Like when I set out to do something, I will do it, come hell or high water. 20 years in the advertising business. I got my first computer when I was 14 or 15 years old in like 94, 95 or somewhere around there. And I was amazed by the possibilities of it. It had like 256 megabytes of RAM and whatnot, and cost a few $1,000s and could barely do anything, but it was mesmerizing. Um, in college, I interned at Universal Music, and we were doing social marketing before it was called social marketing. It was like around the time of Friendster, and we were going into forums. And then I got my first job at Universal McCann working on Sony Pictures. And I've worked in advertising for 20 years and I love it. And a big passion of mine is like I really wanted my fingerprints to be on stuff that a lot of people see. And that was my early inspiration for going to advertising. It's like I don't have I'm not talented enough to be a musician or an entertainer of some type. So advertising is the place to go. And what keeps me here is, and what keeps me like going in my business is really like this. I want to be better. I want to be the best possible professional I can be. And I really like the game of business and I want to keep improving.
I like that answer.
Thanks.
I like that answer. So could you please explain to me, because you're the first person I have seen write digital advertising and not digital marketing. So what's the difference?
That's a great question and a question that everyone needs to hear the answer to. Because if you're in business in any way, there's the top level thing is marketing. So marketing is any of the following things. It's search engine optimization. It's the posts you do on social media. It's the press and PR you get, right? When someone quotes you in a publication, that's press and PR. It's affiliate marketing when other people promote your business. But advertising in particular, by definition, is when you're spending money with a publication of any sort or a website or television, etc., to deliver your message to a group of people. If you're not actively spending money to get your message out to different people, it's not advertising. It's marketing, promotion, social content posting, whatever the case is. So by definition, if you're spending money, if you're boosting a post to get 2,000 people to see your post, that's advertising. So that's the definition.
So if you just make a post out there and it goes viral and it's fantastic, but you haven't paid for it, that's marketing. Brilliant.
That's marketing.
It might be PR. But if you
Yeah.
if you paid to boost it or paid per click ads, that's advertising.
100%.
Okay. I love it. But you're the first person I've ever saw put digital and advertising together.
No.
Most people say digital marketing, but that doesn't make sense because most of those digital marketing agencies are helping them with pay per click.
Right. And it's a specialization. Just like, when you think about design work, a lot of people think marketing is design. So I have a marketing person. Okay, cool. They know Photoshop, but they don't know how to get your site to rank better. They don't know how to get you a quote in Forbes. They don't know how to get your message to the 10,000 people who are most interested in buying your stuff right now. Those are all part and parts of marketing, but they're specialization. So we don't do necessarily marketing. We do specifically advertising. We know how to spend money to generate leads and sales to drive business results.
I belong to Business Network International, BNI.
Mm-hmm.
And in my networking group, we have a guy who does promotional products, and we have a woman who does professional headshots, and we
Mm-hmm.
have a graphic designer. You can have a web designer, a copywriter. All of those people are in the marketing contact sphere, but
Right.
each one of them has their own business, and all of that is marketing.
Yeah. And even when you think about advertising, there's advertising on connected television like Hulu, Amazon Prime, Netflix, etc. That's one bucket. And there's Meta. There are people and companies that only do meta advertising, Facebook and Instagram. Then there's people who do just social, including LinkedIn, TikTok, etc. Then they do banners on the web and audio and digital out of home. There are companies, one of our first clients was a digital out of home company called Billups, and they're a massive company. I don't know what they do now, but at the time they're doing $150 million in revenue. And the thing that fascinated me the most about this is it's advertising. You're paying to deliver a message, but there were people who are multi-generational out of home experts. Like their father and mother worked in out of home, and now they're working in out of home. It's like this whole separate thing outside of like the rest of advertising because it's so intricate. So you have a lot of specialties even within advertising. So
Oh yeah,
that's what we do.
a phone book. We don't phone book advertise anymore, but it's all different. And the things that we
Google My
spend money on.
Business.
Yeah, well,
Just
Google
Google
My
My
Business.
Business.
That's
Yeah.
true, but most people don't really pay for that. Some do.
That's marketing. Marketing. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Not advertising specifically.
So okay, I just said phone book. We said Google My Business. And I was going to talk about when the back in the day when my husband and I had our business and we used to spend money on magazine ads, which was
Hmm.
actually, we had a pretty decent ad spend for magazines. It was $750 an episode, um,
Yeah.
$750 an, not an episode. What is a magazine? A
A
magazine
spread
spread. No,
or
but
a
it was,
page
no, but it's, no, what is it?
publication
Issue. Yeah, per
issue.
issue. Oh my god, magazines are so old school. I can't even remember what an individual magazine is called.
It's unswipeable. That's all
Yeah,
I
and
know.
so but it was a $750 spend, and it was our return on investment on it was incredible.
Yeah.
Um, and it went to exactly who our target client was. It was and so that's gone. I mean, there might still be some of that, but that's gone. So where
Yeah.
do you see? And we know where we are now. We're at pay per click, and people are advertising on all the streaming services. But what's the future going to look like? Can you predict
Um,
that?
no, I don't predict the future. What I'll tell you is that there will be everything's an ad network. That's a common, like in the advertising technology space, everything's an ad network. So when you're on Uber and on the app, you are seeing ads now. Instacart is an ad network. It's right. So when you start have autonomous driving cars at scale, those will be ad networks. So you're going to see ads inside the car on some screen whatsoever, which means the value of those billboards will presumably start to drop. That's a long-term thing. Anywhere, just know that anywhere there's a screen, there's an advertising opportunity, right? And you see that in malls and restaurants on the side of the road, urban panels. If you're in New York, the Link NYC screens, there's always an opportunity for advertising. So whenever you see a new screen pop up and become popular, there will be ads like the Apple Vision Pro, early stages right now, but that's an ad network waiting to happen and more experiential. And really what ends up happening, the future of advertising always follows a similar like rhythm. And the rhythm is you take an old format and you try to slap it on the new thing. It works moderately well. You give it a period of time, a few years, a decade, whatever the case is, and then you're going to have new native formats that make the advertising and marketing experience far more native to the experience, right? So with Apple Vision Pro, for example, you're going to have immersive experiences that just need to be built over time. So that's generally how advertising works.
Couple years ago, I interviewed a guy who is working with a developer to create a metaverse where you play a video game and it's immersive. You can click on something and you'll get a coupon to get a Subway sandwich, right? So
Sure.
you can redeem your Subway sandwich coupon in the real world from playing a virtual game. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how far they are with the development of that world, but it just seems like the virtual and the in person are becoming more and more entwined. I mean, I spend my entire day on Zoom.
Right. The Jetsons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we didn't talk about advertising and podcasting, which is a hot subject. A lot of
Yeah.
a lot of people in the podcast sphere think that you're selling out if you have ads. And if you notice, I just said, and now a word from our sponsor, and I
Yeah.
did something I just released the limiting belief that I couldn't have sponsorships on my show because I would be a sellout if I did.
Yeah.
I this for 10 years. And I charge very little for the ad spot, but why can't I give up 60 seconds of my interview
Yeah.
to support all the work that goes into doing the show?
It's a
It,
business decision. Yeah.
yeah. And then it's because the big name podcasters, like I don't know. Do you know who Mark Maron is?
Yeah. I know he's an old timer, right?
Yeah, he's an old timer. He's a comedian from the 80s.
Oh.
And he has a podcast called WTF, and where
Hmm.
he interviews comedians and people like that. And at the end of his show, there is 15 minutes of sponsorships. 15 minutes. Right?
Are they a funny 15 minutes?
No, it's him reading ad spots. It's not, I mean, it might not be 15 minutes, but there's at least 5 ad spots per
Right.
episode, right? And and I just like, okay, if they can do it, then us indie podcasters should be able to
Yeah.
do it too. You
It's
know,
just business.
yeah. Well, dig into that some more.
Yeah, the business case is, we're all the beneficiaries of advertising, right? You never had to spend a penny on Facebook to get a revolutionary way to connect with people all over the world. Same with all the major social platforms.
Yeah.
And every time someone even thinks about charging for a social platform, the whole public becomes up in arms. And you just, I mean, that tells you everything you need to know. People hate advertising and they also love the benefits of it. So therefore, that's where we are. The business decision part of it for me on a podcast is fundamentally how do you how do you create momentum so that you can keep charging your rates? You can't do too much to alienate your audience, and you can't do too little, otherwise you won't be able to keep your podcast going. So you got to make money somehow. So whether it's the monetization of podcasts, there's the sponsorship readouts that you have, there's digital insertions. There's a company called Acast where you can buy digital insertions of podcasts. Many places do that, but that's one that I see uh, on TikTok a lot advertising. Um, a lot of good ways to monetize podcasts are to sell something, like have a course, have an insight, have a program, have something that people can buy, or sell shirts or whatever, some product.
Yeah.
But or teach people how to do podcasts.
Yeah. There's a lot of options. I've been doing podcasting for 10 years. The way that I have my podcast set up is not the way that's recommended today.
How is it set up?
I had to make an adjustment recently, but it was set up so long ago. I actually had a Google feed. What back in the day, it was
RSS?
RSS feed, but it was before Google bought it. It was called something else. FeedBurner.
Oh
So
yeah.
I had it set up through FeedBurner, and I recently had to go in and manually update the feed to at least 6 different podcast streams because my feed broke. And I said I can't use FeedBurner anymore. I mean, that technology is 20 years old. I need to
Right.
upgrade. So I recently upgraded, but yeah, I had it set up the wrong way for 10 years. But I was set up the way it was supposed to be set up when there was only 300,000 podcasters, and
Right.
now there are 3 million.
Oof.
You know, you said TikTok. Are you keeping up
Well,
with the news?
yeah, the news, there's a few different news things. There's the news that the United States has now officially asked TikTok to divest from ByteDance. There is the written mainstream news that says, I'm not like a conspiracy person whatsoever, but the mainstream news says that ByteDance reports they will never sell. The insiders, so I listened to a podcast called the All In Podcast, venture capitalist Jason Calcanis, Chamath Palihapitiya, people who like Chamath Palihapitiya helped Facebook go from like 40 million people to like almost a billion people in his anyway, really successful venture capitalist CEOs. Jason Calacanis, Web 1.0, web blogs, I think he had. Anyway, so sold to AOL. Anyway, so the inside scoop is that basically, what was the inside scoop now? That ByteDance will will sell TikTok, but not the algorithm. So the algorithm is the most powerful part of TikTok. So they will sell. Go ahead.
Well, but without the algorithm, TikTok doesn't exist.
It does. It's just not as good.
So whoever buys it from ByteDance would have to develop their own
Right.
algorithm. I can say
And
it.
they
I
would
can
sell it
speak.
to a non-media or tech company. So like think Walmart. Even though Walmart is now an advertising platform as well, but like Walmart, Walgreens, Target, some random company that is not in the tech space, they'd be open to selling to.
Okay, but if you don't sell the algorithm with the product, then nobody can, I mean, they would have to develop the technology.
Yeah, it would be like, you know, watered down, useless gunk.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I read because I was really I have a lot of clients in my coaching business who use TikTok on a regular basis, and a lot of them aren't paying attention to the news because there's something about Americans, they don't like to watch the news. I love to know what's going on, so I watch the news, right?
Right.
And I was like, they were talking about how they were going to do a store on TikTok, and this was like within the last 3 weeks, and I went, well, are you aware that Congress just passed a bill that would ban TikTok? And it's going to go to the Senate, and it's likely to pass in the Senate too. And if it passes in the Senate, it's going to get signed by the president. And they were like, no, I had no idea. So, and then I was like, okay, well, it passed. so,
Right. Right.
I'm like, don't spend a lot of your time on TikTok because it might go away anytime now. But it happened in India. Actually, India banned TikTok.
Yeah.
And, it basically, they just moved on to new platforms.
It was a dramatically smaller business though.
That's true.
I don't think TikTok will be banned. I think TikTok will exist. The question is, I my opinion differs from yours. I think people should continue to spend time on TikTok, even if it goes away. It won't go away. 100% will not go away. I am so sure of it. I'm saying it all the time in public. So there's 100%. There's like so many records of me saying this. So only time will tell if I'm right or wrong. But I'm that's my opinion on this. I think any creator should continue to be on TikTok because look, there's going to be a TikTok 2.0, which might be called Vine 2.0, right? Like there will be, this is the way people like to communicate. This is the mode. So you're practicing. And I'm a firm believer that practice is what makes people good. The platforms will go away. We've all been screwed
Mm,
over by a platform. I was big on Vine, had got like holiday, not that big really, got like a few videos with over a million views and whatnot. I was
yeah.
loving Vine.
Yeah.
Holiday Inn Express paid me like $2,500 to promote something. It was
Nice.
great. It was like I'm an
Yeah.
influencer.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. But you just said it. The platforms go away.
Yeah,
Periscope went away. I mean, these platforms, Yahoo groups went away. And that was, I mean, Yahoo
that
groups
was
is the way
hardcore.
that Yahoo groups back in the day, if y'all are young, you don't
Yes,
understand. Yahoo groups
100%.
were it.
Testify, testify. That was the bomb in '97. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
That is how most of us who have kids that are now in their 20s talk to each other. It was,
ASL.
you know, you know, and America Online
Yeah,
started it all,
yeah, yeah.
so these platforms do go away. So you can't invest all of your stuff into one platform. Now, I say that knowing that I myself have invested most of my time and energy into YouTube. I admit it.
There's a,
you know,
have you been able to make YouTube work?
I use YouTube not to go viral, but to share with other people. And because it is free and it's been around for so long and it's
Right.
Google, I just think it's the safest place to put my content. I mean, I've never had a million views on something, but I've had 40,000, which I think is
Hard
respectable.
to do on YouTube.
Yeah, but it's not. I'm not trying to have a million fans. I'm a firm believer in micro influence. I'm
True.
happy if
I
I have
agree
a
with that.
thousand fans.
Right.
So I don't know. Do I have 1,000 fans? Audience? How many fans do I have? That's a good question. Okay, we you. The reason why I'm interested to talk to you about this is because you talk about helping people get better at their profession by telling their story, and I am a
Mhm.
huge fan of storytelling. So talk about that.
Yeah, firmly believe that. I said that. That's great.
You did. Oh
That's
my god, you don't
awesome.
do you ladies and gentlemen, the wait list, the amount of time it takes to get from, yes, I want to be a guest on your show to, yes, you can be a guest on my show to, you're a guest on my show is like 5 months. So yeah, you probably told me that 5 months ago, but you did.
Awesome.
You did. So
I age in dog years. That's like 3 years ago for me.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so build their brand by telling their story. That's what I said. Okay, so look, I think building
Do you
muscle.
want me to read to you exactly what you wrote?
Yes, please.
Okay. I want to help people be better at their chosen profession and in their life. I want to share the story. Oh, I want to share the story of how I went from employee to entrepreneur. I misread.
No, it's okay. But look, I think practicing, going back to TikTok, practicing is what builds muscle. And that muscle that you build is what allows your business to succeed. So all the times you failed at something, hopefully they're not big failures, hopefully they're small failures. All those times you build the muscle to be able to grow. And that's what allows me to exist in this business. I love what I do, but I failed a lot and painfully a bunch of times in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
different, often embarrassing ways. And you just got to pick yourself up and say, okay, what did I learn? Let's not do that same thing again next time and learn from it. Like when I was 28 or 29, I was a director of digital media, which was a very relatively fast track, 6 years in my career. I knew my practice. I knew how to do media buying, which is buying advertising space on platforms to generate leads and sales. I did not know how to talk in meetings. So I'm in meetings with people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, like people who know their stuff and been doing it for many years. And I'm just this guy, this young kid, like talking about digital advertising, and I felt so uncomfortable in my own skin. So I knew I needed to learn how to talk. So I went to Toastmasters for 9 months, revolutionized my career, dramatic change, improvement to this day. And that now it's been 14 years. I did that in 2010.
And you only did
So
it for 9 months,
I only did it for 9 months.
but you
One
learned the
of the
fundamental skills of what you need for presentations.
exactly, yes. And it's like, what do you need? You need to like say the same thing over and over again until you can repeat it in your sleep if you need to. And that's the best part about being an entrepreneur. I say the same thing over and over again, so I just repeat it and look for different interesting ways of saying it.
I was I have a friend and we went to an event together and a person was speaking at the event that we had seen speak before.
Yeah.
And she leans over to me and she says, "That's the exact same speech that he gave the last time we saw him."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Yeah, but we've heard it before, but there's 500 people in this room who haven't." And he just is really good at telling his message. And I'm really good at telling my story, and you're really good at telling your story. And we learned, I actually was in Toastmasters for 7 years.
It's
I
great.
did the entire program, got my DTM.
Nice.
And one of the reasons why I started this podcast is because the thing that I'm really good at is standing on stage and talking.
Oof.
And
Amazing.
the thing that I suck at is talking to somebody one to one.
Really?
So, I mean, I'm a lot better at it now because
Yeah,
I've
you're
been doing
you're
this.
great at it.
I've been doing this for 10 years, but when I started, I was not very good at having these one-on-one conversations, but
Mm.
I got to be really good at asking questions,
Yeah,
you know. So I ask
that's
a lot
a
of
key part of
questions.
it.
Oh, I
Ask
do a lot.
questions.
Yeah, I do a lot of networking, and a lot of times I'll have a one-to-one with somebody, and we're in a Zoom meeting for an hour, and at the end of the meeting, they'll be like, "Well, what do you do?" And I give them my rehearsed, really good spiel on what I do in two
Right.
minutes. You know,
Right.
but they suddenly think I'm the most interesting person they've ever met because all I did was ask them questions.
Right.
And that's a skill. I mean, and I learned it through Toastmasters.
It also helps with dating too.
Does it? I don't know. It's been a long time since I've dated.
Yeah. No, I'm married. I've been married. I've been with my wife for, well, we've been married for 7 years, together for 10. But, during that time of my life, so we met in 2013. So this was 3 years after Toastmasters. So I was like, all right, got to ask
Yeah.
some questions.
Yeah. I
It
love
means it's
that. Toastmasters
fewer,
help me date better.
yeah, fewer
I love it
opportunities for me to say stupid things
because you're asking questions.
because I'm asking questions.
Yeah. My husband and I actually did Toastmasters together for a little bit.
That's cool. How was that?
We just ended up in different clubs.
Hmm.
So, well, I could go in the daytime because my daughter was in school, and I would go. I was in a lunchtime club, and he would go
Hmm.
after work. So it
Hmm.
just worked out better.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was fun to develop our public speaking skills together because it's not just about public speaking, and I mean you learn how to have conversations and you learn leadership skills as well. Toastmasters is a fantastic organization.
100%.
Yeah. I oftentimes say that because it's been 10 years since I left Toastmasters. So I started 17 years ago. And there are people that were in my very first club, in my very first meeting, that I still talk to all the time.
Wow.
It started me on my journey to building a network. Before that, I was a stay-at-home mom who only had friends on Yahoo groups.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
after I joined Toastmasters, I started growing a business network, and it was pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
So,
And networking is such an important part of business growth. I mean, that's how I built my business, off of relationships. We're
yeah.
moving away from that now, but for a long time.
Okay, so let's tell that story about how you went from employee to entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, so I had spent 10 years. No one, you can't really, for most people, you're going to learn how to do something really well. And starting your business, like 90% of what you do when you start a business has nothing to do with what you know how to do really well. So 10 years working in the advertising business, new media buying or ad buying for Sony, Disney, Capcom, Bacardi, Toshiba, PetSmart, Northrop Grumman. And you had to spend money to generate business results. Cool. No one taught me how to sell. No one even, I mean, it's like standard operating procedure I learned like 7 years later or something like that. But like, no, like the very basics, like financial risk, like that scared me. In fact, it was so scary to me that I tried to not start an advertising business. I tried a consulting firm, an influencer marketing firm, a social media firm. I tried to be an influencer, going back to that Vine thing. I tried everything not to do the thing I was the best at because I was so scared of everything I didn't know. And it was only when, first of all, those other things failed because I had no business actually doing them. I had no key insight, or it was not my area of expertise. It was only when I focused in on how to grow my business and focus in on like the business that I was going to have, is when the solutions started coming to me, and networking and finding other ways to drum up revenue and leverage other people's value, basically. Like I knew people who, like I said, like 10, 20, 30 years more experience than I had. I was like, hey, open the doors for me and we'll make it good for you. It'll benefit you in some way. So once I determined that I'm going to do something, then the solutions start to come to me. But when I was spread out in 4 or 5 different directions, it was hard to see the forest for the trees, and no solution actually stuck.
It's really hard to get something done when you're trying to get five things done.
5 different Twitter accounts, 5 different websites, 5 different email addresses, and works like it's hard enough to do one thing really well.
Yeah.
And it takes all your brain power to really focus on one thing to make it work. Now there's no chance of success when you're doing more than one.
A couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I decided to move my podcast to its own YouTube channel because the videos on my main channel weren't related to the podcast. It was I'm living with metastatic breast cancer. The most
Mm,
popular videos on my main channel are about breast cancer. You
mm,
know, and the thing about YouTube though is that I posted videos 10 years ago that still have comments on them every week.
mm, mm-hmm,
I'm still interacting with people on videos from 10 years ago. And that
mm,
doesn't happen on very many other platforms.
mm-hmm,
You know, anyway, so I started a channel for the podcast, And then I got lazy and I was like, God, this is so much work to have two channels. But then I realized that the podcast did not fit with the rest of the stuff on the main
Mhm.
channel. So it has to be separate. So I spent a lot of time trying to grow that channel to be comparable to the main channel. I mean, I don't have a huge channel. I'm barely I mean, I'm not monetized on either of them, but I'm barely at the precipice of where you can get monetized, right?
Hmm.
I the results are a lot better. Like I'm getting more views from the pod. I actually get something like 5 times more views on my smaller podcast channel that only has podcast
Yeah,
than I do on my main channel that's 15 years old and has videos that went, got really popular for a little bit, right? Sometimes you do have to have two channels,
sure,
but it's exhausting. It's
sure,
exhausting.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk about how to know where you need to be. Like, how does an advertiser know where they should be
Oh,
advertising?
I thought you were talking about metaphysically.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Metaphysically, how do we know
I have an
where
answer to
there's
that. Life tells you. Life tells you. Life closes doors and opens doors for you.
that is
Pushes
absolutely
you in that
true.
direction.
That is
That's what life
absolutely true.
does.
Every time something, I love change because every time something changes, it gets better. Things get better.
Yeah. How do you know where you need to be? So you test. The biggest reason to work with a company like mine and starting to work with us starts at $500 a month. So it's not like an inordinate
Oh,
amount of
that's
money.
very affordable.
Yeah.
That's less than
So
we were paying on that for that magazine ad.
yeah. So everything. So this is where you should. So your specific question is where should you be? I will then answer what you should say. So where you should be is dependent upon your audience. So you first need to understand who are you selling to? What is your ideal customer profile? Like men, women, parents. Uh, what are the characteristics of the people that you know you need to talk to? And this is about establishing product market fit. Product market fit is when you know how to talk about your business to a bunch of people and price your business in the right way so that people spend money with you. If people aren't spending money with you, you don't have product market fit. An example of product market fit is like in Los Angeles, there's no fast Caribbean food. There's like barely any Caribbean food. But why? It's because no one wants fast Caribbean food. I'm sure companies have tried. So you can have the absolute best
That's really unfortunate because Caribbean food is delicious.
yeah, I'm a foodie. I'm down for it. I'm 100% down. Like every time I talk about this, I'm like, I got to find some Caribbean food.
Have you ever
Um,
been to San Francisco?
yeah,
Okay, so at the corner of Haight and Ashbury is a restaurant called Cha Cha Cha. Have you eaten there?
I've been to the no, but we go no, I haven't. Is it great?
It Oh my, it is still to this day my absolute favorite place I've ever eaten. And I
Okay,
haven't been to San Francisco. I lived in the Bay Area. I moved away in '96.
okay.
I recently Googled it to see if the restaurant's still there, and it was the last time I checked. So Cha 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 at the corner of Haight and Ashbury. You absolutely need to try it. Cash only. They don't take
Love it.
credit cards.
We hang out there pretty often, like at least once every few years we go to outside lands.
Mm,
And our Airbnb, wherever we get it, is usually in that neighborhood.
yeah. Yeah. If it's still there, it's incredible. Okay, it's been 20 years since I've lived in the area. More than that, because my daughter's 25, so it's been 30 years, and I still talk about this restaurant. Okay. Anyway, I interrupted you about, I totally interrupted you and took us down another tangent. Okay,
I'm
so
down.
if there isn't a desire for Caribbean food in the market, that's
That
where we
just
left off.
means that just means that there's no, you may have the best Caribbean food, but there's no market for it. So for most people, you're going to have a market for something. You just got to know how to talk about it in a way that's compelling. What you're looking for are data signals. So think about a police lineup. That's the person. So when you have 100 people, picture 100 people standing in front of you. What data do you need to know about them so that you can determine whether or not they're your best customer? So you need to have some formulation of who your people are. So like, and then you apply that information to platforms. So the first thing to note about platforms, there's a bit of nuance here. The first thing to know is that just because one demographic over indexes, there's more of that demographic on a platform than others. That doesn't mean that there's zero of the other people on the platform. It just means there's a little bit more. So when we talk about Pinterest, Pinterest is good for female facing products and services. If you're talking about business, you're going to be on LinkedIn. Entrepreneurial stuff, politics, technology, business, X. If you're targeting people over 40, you're going to do well on Facebook. Under 40, let's say 35 to 55, Instagram. If you're a flower shop or there's some other product or service that people can get right now, you want to be on Google, right? Who needs flowers? The person who's typing up flower shops near me, right? That's a key indicator. But none of that is to say that you shouldn't be on, like if you're a flower shop, that doesn't mean don't be on Facebook. That means the lowest hanging fruit, the most likely opportunity to generate a sale immediately is going to be Google. But essentially, if you want to grow, you're going to need to build a brand. People are going to need to know who you are. There's going to need to be awareness, and that happens on other platforms. So really what you want to think about is a few other things. Number one, 47% of all digital ad spend in 2024 will be delivered on Google and Meta. Chances are you should be on
What was the number?
47%
47%, so almost half on
of
two
all
platforms.
spending. Yes.
Wow.
140 billion in the US.
Who comes in third?
I don't know.
And probably not, it's probably not even by, there's probably a huge margin between the third person and.
It's Amazon. I don't know who's
Do you
third.
think it's Amazon? Let's find out.
A few moments later.
Did you find it?
Yeah, it's Amazon.
Is it Amazon?
So
How interesting.
Google is 77 billion. Meta is 64. Let me make sure that math works. I think it does. Yeah, 141 billion. Amazon is 42 billion. Microsoft is 10.
And so Microsoft, we're talking, what does Microsoft own? Oh, LinkedIn
And Bing.
and Bing. Okay.
So Microsoft is, yeah, so right.
Interesting.
Then you have TikTok. TikTok shows here as 10 billion. I thought it was 4 billion. So I gotta check in on that.
I want to hear those numbers again.
I'll share my screen.
Oh, hey, cool. He's sharing his screen. Yay. Okay.
Google, this is eMarketer, they're a research company. So Google 77, Meta 64, Amazon 42, so these two roll up into this. So I'll skip that. Microsoft 10, TikTok 10.
So Amazon, we're talking, that's the streaming services. Does Amazon own anything else besides streaming services?
Most of that is going to be search on Amazon.
Oh.
So if I go to Amazon, well, this is an ad.
If you're listening to the audio only version of this podcast, head over to YouTube and watch the video.
Yeah. So what we're showing right now, we're on Amazon.com. There's a 300 by 250 ad on the right-hand side of Amazon. There are books, and so there's sponsorships throughout. Let's look at pasta and cereals. Let's see here.
So everywhere where it says sponsored. Interesting. Okay. Because I don't even pay attention to the sponsored ads on Amazon. I just buy what I'm looking for. And if when I go to Amazon, there I have something specific that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So let's look at this. Where was I here? Like someone was showing, like, this is an ad right here.
Okay.
The challenge is a lot of times you don't know.
It does say sponsored. It will say sponsored if it's sponsored.
Yeah, like these. But if you're scrolling, if you're in the mindset of what am I going to look for, these are definitely sponsored, but
yeah. And we are so trained from Google that sometimes we just scroll past the first few because we know they're ads.
Sure.
Has Google rolled out the new AI to you? When I do a Google search now, I don't see sponsored ads. I see AI. I see an AI answer to my question.
Me too.
Okay. And so do you think that's going to affect how much money people spend on Google ads?
Yes. Yeah, I don't see any ads here. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Until you get real far down.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think I think we've had like 25 years of dominance by Google. And let me stop sharing because I'm distracted. Uh, 25 years of dominance with Google. I think now they finally have a competitor, a worthwhile competitor in a whole new sort of way of communicating.
Hmm.
And I think what's going to happen with Google happens with the same thing that happened with television, which is like television is about a $60 billion business this year in 2024 in the US. So it's still a ton of money. It's just on its own. It's just
Hmm.
dwarfed by like the over 300 billion that's in in digital media.
Hmm.
So it's declining. And you know what happened to newspapers and magazines, right?
Yeah.
They all but went away. So I think over the next decade or two, there's a possibility that Google's revenue will decline, but they still have YouTube, which is a great platform. They still have their cloud services, which is a great platform. And at the end of the day, they will be dominant. They just won't have a virtual monopoly, right? Google's like
Yeah.
85, 90% of the market. Microsoft is 7. There's a bunch of
They're
others.
they're so innovative though. Who knows what they're going to come up with next?
Yeah, and AI is definitely the place that they have to be. But there's never been an environment, a business environment where Google had to do anything.
Yeah.
They had AI like a few years ago, and they just didn't roll it out because they wanted to preserve their monopoly, which is the same thing that Kodak did.
Yeah.
And Kodak went away and went bankrupt, and now they're back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can't predict. Well, I think Kodak made a huge mistake. I mean, the future was digital, and they missed the opportunity.
But here's the thing: here's the thing about it. You don't know if that was a right or wrong decision. Looking back
Mm,
historically, yes, if you want your business to exist in the future, you want that to be. But maybe they don't care if the business exists in the future because they're maximizing profits at the moment. And that's what Google just did.
yeah. Well, okay, so let's talk about LG for a second. LG made the cell phone that ever existed, the G5 or G4, whatever. I can't remember what it was called.
Mhm.
It had a beautiful picture. It took great video. It was a
Mhm.
fantastic phone. And then they went to pot, and now LG doesn't exist anymore. So that I
Wait,
mean that
as a phone company?
yeah, they don't make phones anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, they make refrigerators and all sorts of stuff. I mean, I think one of my monitors is an LG. No, they're two Samsungs and a Dell.
Rolling in the deep.
I think maybe our TV is an LG, but but they aren't making phones anymore. But I mean, they had the best phone. The year that they made that G4 or G5, whatever it was. Do you remember what the model number was?
I can't. What year was this?
It
I don't
was
know what
like
year you're talking.
it was, I don't know, it was the mid 2000s, maybe. I don't know. It was a while ago, but it was the best cell phone available. Everything about it was fabulous. And then the next phone they came out with got dwarfed by Samsung and Apple. But I mean, they went from being the best
Yeah.
to they don't even exist anymore. And that happens. I mean, everybody thought Periscope was the best thing since sliced bread. Vine was fantastic. I mean, you know, I don't even know what half of the social media channels are anymore because I'm pretty much stuck on Facebook because that's where my people are, right?
Do you
Because
remember Alex Kahn from Periscope? He was the
mm,
number one Periscoper. He got
is
on the
he the
first
guy
day.
who has Khan Academy?
I don't think so. I think that's something different.
Okay. Khan Academy is fantastic, by the way. If you have a kid who's struggling, go to YouTube and look up Khan Academy. There's an unsolicited plug right there.
Yeah, I think this is someone else different.
Okay. No, I never got into Periscope. It wasn't my thing.
Hmm. I love Periscope.
I don't ever do those LinkedIn lives either that are all audio. And which is silly because I'm a podcaster. You would think that I would have embraced stuff like that. But you notice that I'm recording this on, on Zoom and I'm going to use the video.
Live
So,
is nuts. It's always like stressful on live.
yeah, I don't like live because I don't have control. I did start doing, I've done a handful of them, but I did start doing like unboxing videos or tasting videos live just because it was easier to record them that way. But for some reason, and again, I don't have a ginormous following, but for some reason, people start sending me stuff to review. And
That's great.
I'm really honest. I mean, I was brutally honest. And so I do those live and then I edit them and put them up on YouTube. But so I do those on Facebook Live. But it's really fun because sometimes, I'm going to try something would never consider even buying. Right.
Right.
So it's fun. It's fun. But aside from that, live is not my thing. Like every time somebody says, "Hey, you want to come and do a LinkedIn live with me?" And I'm like,
That's funny.
I'll think about it. Because it's just not my thing. Dude, oh man, we need to start wrapping up. So I used to ask every single guest what your favorite marketing tool technique is, but I want to broaden that. So, what is your favorite business tool tip or technique?
Yeah, this is exactly, I think, the most important thing that we can talk about. It's called sprint testing. Take $25. So do a little bit of research on your business. What are the problem statements that your customers have in their own words? You run those as ads in $25 sprint tests, and you understand the problem statements that absolutely most resonate for your business. It gets you out of being a marketer and gets you into being an empathetic human being looking to solve a problem for another human being. So you do these tests in quick $25 increments on Meta. You start to understand exactly what your customers want. And then when you need to generate leads and sales for your business, you're doing it with problems. The reason problems resonate with people is because everyone's trying to sell you something. They're trying to tell you why their thing is so good. A lot of companies are not spending enough time talking about the transformative value. What's the problem that you're facing, and how can we help you solve that problem? So when you come to a person and say, I understand your problem in your heart and soul, I understand the problem that you face, and I have a solution for it, you automatically rise to the top of the heap of potential solutions because you understand the challenges that your people are facing. So we do those sprint tests in these $25 increments, and they're dramatically improving. So an example of that, we were running lead ads before we were doing this process. Our lead costs were coming in at about $140, $150, depending on the month, sometimes as low as 120. And with doing this process and driving to a lead form on Meta, we lowered the lead cost to about $20.
Wow, that's huge. Oh, that's like a sixth of the spend
Yeah.
that was before.
Yeah. It's a
That's
dramatic
amazing.
difference.
I remember
And
back in the day when leads cost $1.
yeah, I mean, Amazon built their business off of Google search.
Yeah. Well, my husband and I started our custom furniture business in '99, and we did pay-per-click ads on Google, and we were spending 25 cents, 50 cents.
Right.
And we didn't spend a lot of money, but it produced a lot of really good results, but
Right.
we also did SEO and all the stuff that you needed to
Sure.
do. We had fantastic photos,
Yeah.
amazing testimonials. I mean, it's not just the pay-per-click. You got to have you got to give them a whole menu of things that make them want to buy from you. Tell a
Right.
story, we, pick pictures of our baby, you know,
Yeah.
all the things. I now have the title of this episode: "Solve Problems, Problem Solving." Some along that
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
It's a perfect title for this episode. Thank
Yeah.
you for that. Okay, Robert Brill, this is your moment of gratitude. For whom or what are you most grateful?
My wife and my child, they bring sunshine into my world.
Thanks for tuning in to Gratitude Geek, the relationship marketing podcast for micropreneurs, building genuine, lasting relationships with clients, colleagues, and community. Our theme music is track 14 by Rev Brock and Soul Lily. To connect with our guest, Robert Brill, head over to the show notes at gratitudegeek.com. I've been your host, Nesbitt-Rodarte. Stay groovy, my friends.
Stay groovy, my friend.